In this video, we're taking a look at undervalued second appearances with a very special guest, BRY'S Comics. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we're going to talk about undervalued second appearances. And as you can see, we have a very special guest, BRY'S Comics. Bry, thank you so much for coming back onto the channel.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been a much requested thing ever since we did our first video. And man, I am so excited about these undervalued keys that we unearthed for this show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, definitely. I mean, I know a lot of people, I got a lot of comments that said, oh, Bry is great, you know, love the collaboration. So we had to give the people what they wanted. We had to do another video series here. And for those who don't know, actually, we released this video here if you're discovering it on my channel, but Bry also has another part that we're doing as well. So we've released 2 videos at the same time on his channel. So definitely, after you watch this one, go check out his video on that channel where I'm on it. We talk about more undervalued second appearances. And, you know, definitely we're doing a little bit of a giveaway that Bry's going to tell you about in a second. And maybe, Bry, you want to
Speaking of giving the people what they want, how about free comic books and awesome stands to display those books? We have an awesome giveaway here. We have a Death Star slab stand, which can also be used for raw books. This is a 3D printed custom slab stand from Tashi Station Comics over on Instagram. And this one is super special because it's a secret variant. It comes with a green kyber crystal. So not every slab stand that's sold comes with a kyber crystal, and this is the first time I've seen a green one. So super cool thing. And we had to do raw books for the giveaway in honor of Swaggle's channel because he is a mostly raw book guy, but you know we're bringing him over to the slab side. And first off, we have Star Wars Adventures Clone Wars Battle Tales #1. This go great in that slab stand. And this is signed and numbered by Michael Morici, number 49 of 140. It's got Star Wars. It's got Disney. I mean, this is just a great book to have. In addition to that, we have The Amazing Spider-Man Venom #1, the 3D version. So it reprints ASM 300, comes with 3D glasses, still polybagged. And Invincible #1, the local comic shop day gold foil edition. Amazing show on Amazon Prime if you guys haven't checked it out yet. And Something is Killing the Children #1, full foil local comic shop day edition. Total value of everything here is over $100, especially when you factor in shipping. All you have to do to be entered to win is subscribe to both channels and comment on both videos that we're dropping at the exact same time, and you're in it to win.
So very, very cool giveaway, but let's get into the video here today, which is going to be undervalued second appearances. And Bry, you know, you brought this up to me, and I feel like maybe you can tell them a little bit about like what you discovered with this sort of untapped market.
You know, second appearances have historically haven't played that big of a role in the market. And in today's market, first appearances are reaching record-breaking numbers every single week, week after week after week. And so we're seeing a new trend emerge, and that is attention starting to go to other keys like second appearance, origin, first cover appearance, things along those lines. And oftentimes you get all in one. You get the origin, first cover appearance, and the second appearance. Like we saw with one of the picks that you had over on my channel. I think that this is just kind of low-hanging fruit of a new approach to comic book speculation that we're still in the early phases of, and there's a lot of potential and opportunity to be had.
Absolutely. And for those who have, you know, watched some of my other videos here on this channel, when we do some of these like hottest go collect books, you know, we always see these second appearances popping up on the list. So definitely great waters to spec on. And yeah, let's get into our books for today. All right, so the first book we have here is Captain Marvel 26. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the second appearance of Thanos. Second appearance of Thanos, guys. And also on top of that, this is the first cover appearance of Thanos, as you can see him there in the window. And, for being the MCU's biggest bad of all time, I can't believe how undervalued this particular book is. I mean, we all know Thanos' first appearance from Iron Man 55, a great book, definitely something that I would love to personally own. But, one of the things that is kind of a knock against that book is that we don't see Thanos on the cover. Well, for this one right here, being that it's his second appearance and that it's its first cover appearance, I kind of feel like, if you want to grab that sort of early Thanos, this is maybe the go-to one to get, because if you're like Bry there and you're big on slabs, you're not going to open that book anyway. So you might as well own one of the ones where you actually get to see the character on the cover. And on top of that, this is also the first appearance of the character known as Death. And if you know Thanos' sort of backstory, at least in the comic book space, Death is his big motivation for wanting to eliminate half of the universe's population, because he wants to impress her. So I think that that's like a really, really cool kind of like cosmic character as well. So, you have a bonus in that sense with this book, where you're getting the second appearance of Thanos and you're getting the first appearance of the character known as Death.
Yeah, I mean, with all of those things going for it, this book is still drastically undervalued. And that first appearance of Thanos is never really received that much love because of the cover. Just like you said, I think this is definitely a cooler cover and certainly an undervalued book in today's market. All right, next up we have X-Force #2, and this is the second appearance of Deadpool. And it's also the first appearance of Weapon X as Garrison Kane, who you see there on the cover. And Garrison Kane, Weapon X, has cybernetic arms and legs from both the 20th and 40th century due to some time travel stuff that happened. And he was actually originally in the script for Deadpool, for the Deadpool movie, but he was canceled because of concerns about the cost for the CGI for his cybernetic arms to be too much. So I thought that was a super interesting little tidbit, is that he was actually scripted for the MCU. And now that the Deadpool franchise is so successful, maybe they have it in the budget now to do the CGI for his cybernetic arms and legs. But there are a couple cautionary things about this pick. Number one, it's from 1991. And that means that there are a ton of copies out there. This was a period in history where the market was absolutely saturated with copies of books like this. And also, there are a ton of graded copies out there. There's almost 3,800 copies on the CGC census, with 1,730 of them being CGC 9/8. And the reason that most of these that were graded got 9/8, I believe, is because people probably found an entire box of this book that had never been read. So we have an extremely high number of these books receiving that investment grade of 9.8. So for that reason, I would stick with a 9.8 if you're going to buy this book. I've seen many copies sell within the past few months for under $100. So if you're patient and you find one on auction, you very well could snipe it for under $100. And as Deadpool's first appearance gets further and further out of reach, people may start to consider this book as a consolation. Its first appearance of Weapon X is kind of a long shot for the MCU, but it's just a little bonus for this. But the cherry on the top for this book is the back cover, which is Marvel trading cards, baby.
Oh yeah.
So the issue previous to this was X-Force #1, which is now kind of infamous for possibly containing the Deadpool rookie card. X-Force #1 was the first time a trading card was distributed with a comic book in a poly bag. So this is the next issue. So they're trying to promote the whole trading card thing. This doesn't add any value to the book. It's just kind of a cool factor for having this book. A lot of times the back cover, it kind of leaves something to be desired. And I think this is a conversation piece and just a really cool back cover to have.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I mean, as you guys know, I love me some Marvel trading cards. So this one is a very, very cool book for that reason. That ad alone just brings me a lot of nostalgia looking at it. But to your points, I mean, New Mutants 98 just keeps going up and up and up and up. And for that reason, it makes it really hard to get your hands on that book. So this one, X-Force #2, second appearance of Deadpool, really, really, an interesting choice. And we know that we're going to get Deadpool in the MCU coming up with his third movie. So I feel like there's a lot of growth opportunity for this particular book. And then if we ever get X-Force in the MCU, the fact that book is in an X-Force title, that's another way for this book to grow eventually. So I think this is a really great pick. All right, so the next book we have here is Fantastic Four number 53. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the second appearance of the Black Panther. I mean, second appearance of Black Panther for being one of the biggest MCU characters there is right now. I mean, I feel like this book is totally undervalued. And on top of that, this is also the first appearance of the character known as the Claw, which is one of Black Panther's biggest arch villains. He was played by the guy who does Golem in the MCU. Of course, that character was killed, but still very, very cool to have within the comic book space. And then another little fun fact about this one is that this is actually the first time that they talk about vibranium as being a metal that comes from Wakanda. So, you have that other little piece of history that makes this book kind of extra special. And, Black Panther, of course, we had the very, very tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. But, what he did for the character and bringing it into, the pop culture space, he did a tremendous job with that role. And for that reason, number 52, his first appearance is an extremely, extremely desirable book. But this one right here, as I look at, number 53 and I look at some of the numbers that I see on eBay, it's like there's total respectable prices that you can get this book at. And, being that it's his second appearance and it has those other factors like Claw and the vibranium factor, I feel like this is definitely an undervalued book.
This is also the first appearance of T'Chaka, Black Panther's father, who we all know was killed in the MCU as well by Zemo. But that doesn't mean that is insignificant, because in the Falcon and Winter Soldier that came out yesterday, they mentioned T'Chaka and they mentioned how Baron Zemo killed T'Chaka. I mean, it's still relevant, and that event actually has lingering effects in the MCU. And even though a character is killed off in the MCU, I don't think that devalues the book at all. I think, when you go back and watch Black Panther and you see T'Chaka and you go, I have that book, like for me as a geek collector, like I geek out on stuff like that. When I see him on the big screen, the fact that I have his first appearance is just so much cooler. So yeah, this book, it also epic cover, the fact that it has Black Panther on the cover there. I mean, this is a no-brainer, guys. All right, so next up, we have a super interesting one as far as numbers go. We have Ultimate Spider-Man #1. Sometimes it's also referred to as Ultimate Comics Spider-Man #1, which kind of makes it kind of frustrating when you're researching stuff. But it goes by either, the most common is Ultimate Spider-Man #1. That's what CGC says. And this is the second appearance and origin of Miles Morales. It's also the first solo title for Miles Morales and the first appearance of the Ultimate Prowler, the uncle of Miles Morales in the Ultimate Universe. It's got this iconic Miles Morales cover, which replicates what was on the Previews magazine, which came out before this, which is the first consumer-facing image of Miles Morales and predates Ultimate Fallout 4. This cover just got its first cover swipe in Miles Morales Spider-Man #25. It was a Mike Mayhew cover, and I would expect to see a lot more cover swipes of this in the future. And every time there's a cover swipe, it just solidifies the original cover that much more. There's a 1 in 15 and a 1 in 30, both done by Pichelli, and a sketch version of the 1 in 15, which is an absolute ghost. There's a really interesting story behind the sketch cover of the 1 in 15. It was offered to retailers who ordered 5,000 copies or more of the second print of Ultimate Fallout 4. It was a really strange marketing technique by Diamond Comics where they said, if you order 5,000 copies of Ultimate Fallout 4 second print, we'll give you one sketch version of the 1 in 15 of this book. And they said there was only 20 copies made, and there's only 6 on the CGC census. So I think I would be surprised if more than 6 shops ordered 5,000 plus copies of Ultimate Fallout 4 second print. I think what happened here is they probably printed way more copies of Ultimate Fallout 4 second print than they thought they could sell. And so they offered this little incentive. little did we know that now that second print that shops could have ordered for $2 is worth $1,200 in a CGC 9.8, and they're
Crazy.
begging people to order it for $2.
Yeah.
It's just nuts when you look at those numbers. So if that ghost of a 1 in 15 comes to market, it hasn't even been seen since 2013. I would not be surprised if it eclipses the $10,000 mark. It sold for over $1,000 in 2013. Here we are 8 years later. So be on the lookout for that. It will shake up the market if that happens, and we will see trickle down effects for all Miles books, and especially this one, because it's the incentive for this book. But I want to talk about this book on the screen here, cover A for Ultimate Spider-Man #1. There are only 241 CGC 9.8s on the census, as compared to over 2,500 Ultimate Fallout 4s. I couldn't find an exact number for the print run of Ultimate Spider-Man 1, but looking on comichron.com, I found that the previous titles for Ultimate Comic Spider-Man issues, all #1s, all had around 100,000 K print run. So I don't think it would be unwise to assume that this book had a similar print run to Ultimate Fallout 4, around 100,000. So the fact that there is such a big discrepancy of the number of graded copies leads me to believe that this book is undervalued. People are still sitting on their copies and not getting them graded because they haven't seen record smashing numbers. There's nothing more motivating to go pull that book out and submit a book than seeing it sell for $3,000. Because when you think about the average collector, the thought of creating a CGC account, submitting a book, not knowing what the grade is, shelling out the money, it's a daunting idea for somebody who's not used to doing that. So I think that this book hasn't seen its peak yet, and that's why I think it's undervalued. Another interesting thing is that on the census, both Ultimate Fallout 4 and Ultimate Spider-Man 1 have a similar percentage of 9/8 to the total census population. And what I mean by that is Ultimate Fallout 4 has 26% of the total census population as 9.8s. And Ultimate Comics has 27% of the total census population as 9.8s. Just about the same. And this is unusually low for a modern book. So what's going on here? Well, Ultimate Fallout 4 second print has 44% 9.8s compared to the total census population. So a substantially higher number of 9.8s. And my theory for why this is because both of these books were distributed in a poly bag. And poly bags, if you've ever opened one and taken a comic out of it, it's kind of a scary process. And the only thing a polybag would protect a comic from is like dust. The thing that affects the grade of these modern books is spine ticks, and a polybag does nothing to prevent spine ticks. If it had a board and a polybag, then it would be a different story. So in my opinion, these polybags kind of gave people a false sense of protection of the book, and they mishandled them a little bit more. And so we see drastically less 9.8 copies. And so because of that, you see a huge premium for the 9.8. Another reason I think this is undervalued is because in August of 2020, 8 months ago, Ultimate Spider-Man #1 9.8 sold for $1,225. Here in April of 2021, I just bought one for $1,250, essentially the same price as it was 8 months ago. And that is mind-blowing when you think about what's happened in the market in the past 8 months. By comparison, Ultimate Fallout 4, the first appearance of Miles Morales, was selling for $1,200 in August of 2020 as well. It's now selling for $3,200, a $2,000, and what is that? Almost a 200% price increase. This book hasn't followed that trend. And I don't know why that is, but I think it means it's drastically undervalued, and we will see a correction and those prices will bump up, especially since we haven't got news of Miles Morales coming to the live action film in the MCU. So I think there's plenty of time to get in on this. And there's lots of opportunities in those lower grades. You know, the $1,200 for a 9.8 obviously is out of reach for a lot of people, but 9.6 jumps down to about $300. And below that, you can get some even better deals as well. So I think there's definitely some room for this book to grow.
That was some incredible analysis from Bry right there. I mean, you guys heard. I mean, just looking at the statistics, looking at the numbers that you bring. I mean, take away the fact that Miles is just like the modern day's biggest character that has been created. Like, you take away all that, you just look at the numbers. I mean, this book is extremely undervalued for all the reasons you mentioned. But on top of that, just from like kind of an emotional standpoint, I actually just even prefer this cover compared to Ultimate Fallout 4. I mean, like, this is, you get to see Miles like in the hood, in sort of a dynamic pose, as opposed to like when he's holding his mask in Ultimate Fallout 4. So even for me, like, for that reason, just emotionally, I really think that this book is undervalued, considering what the Ultimate Fallout 4 is going for these days. And I know that this might be kind of like a bold statement, but I kind of feel like Miles Morales, Ultimate Fallout 4, just him as a character is like, so that book is kind of like the Hulk 181 or like the AF-15 of this sort of generation. So for that reason, that book, it's continuing to go up, but I think that like the sky's is the limit with it as we go on, throughout the future with this character. And for that reason, this second appearance is extremely undervalued, because I think that this one is always going to sort of ride the, economic coattails, I guess you could call it, of the Ultimate Fallout 4 for many years to come.
Absolutely. I think that Miles Morales is a blue chip key going forward. I think that 20 years from now, he's going to have his own franchise. I think that we are just in the baby stages of this book, and a lot of people would agree with me on that as well. Also, an interesting factor on these Ultimate Fallout 4 books and Ultimate Spider-Man 1, we have, you mentioned riding the coattails of big sales. Well, we have newsstand editions for both of those books, and those numbers, when those books make huge sales, it drastically affects the prices of these other books. So we have many different options for that. We have the 1 in 15 sketch variant Ghost that I mentioned. That is a potential to have record-breaking sales that trickle down onto this book. We have the newsstand edition, which we've already seen have trickle-down effect on this book. Last sale, I think, was around 10,000. I think they're, a 9.8. I believe there's only 3 in existence of Ultimate Fallout 4 newsstand. Okay, we're talking about 3 9.8s in existence. And I would not be surprised if that book cleared $30,000 or more if it comes to market after announcement is made. This book also has a newsstand edition, and I found one. I went private party factor. I paid $2,000 for a CGC 9.6. The most I've ever paid for a single comic book. I never thought it would be a modern 9.6. But in doing research for this video, I got to stop doing these videos because I find these things and I end up spending big money. But I just think $2,000 for a CGC 9.6 newsstand edition, as rare as it is, that is the fair market value. They're selling all day for that price. So yeah, I think there's a lot of room to grow, and I am excited to see where this character goes and what the future holds for Miles Morales.
Absolutely.
Don't forget, guys, subscribe to both channels and comment on both videos, and you're in it to win this awesome giveaway where we have this 3D printed custom Death Star slab or raw book stand with the secret variant green Kyber crystal and Something's Killing the Children #1 local comic shop day full foil version, Invincible #1 local comic shop day gold foil edition, Amazing Spider-Man Venom 3D #1 polybag, so you'll get to see, firsthand the woes of opening a polybag with the 3D glasses. And last but not least, Star Wars Adventures Clone Wars Battle Tales #1, signed and numbered by Michael Morici, number 49 of 140. All you have to do, subscribe to both channels, comment on both videos, and you're in it to win.
Well, those are the books that we have for this video, Undervalued second appearances. I want to take this time to thank BRY'S Comics for hopping over to my channel. Honestly, if you guys don't know about BRY'S Comics, what are you doing with your life? You got to go over there. You got to check out this guy. You heard him break down like the Miles Morales book. This guy comes with, facts. He comes with the research. He knows so much about CGCs. I'm new to the CGC game. You guys know about that. So definitely, please go check out his channel. You're not going to regret it. Comment down below on this one. Get yourself in the giveaway. Subscribe. Do one of those things. We would both appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And again, Bry, thank you so much for coming over to this channel.
Thank you so much for having me. I love doing these collaborations because it brings the community together. And that's one of my favorite things about this hobby, is that it has such a strong, incredible community. And the more we can come together, the better it is for all of us. So I really appreciate you having me on. And I look forward to doing another one in the future.
Definitely. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for watching. Hop over to his channel, watch the other video, and we will see you in the next video.
Bye.